حضرت آیت الله العظما سید علی حسینی خامنه‌ای در راه سربلندی به ملکوت اعلی پیوستند.
6 a.m. Somewhere in Israel, the air trembles. One by one, fighter jets scream off the runway, armed, fueled, and locked onto a target 1,500 kilometers away. Inside a compound in Tehran, Iran's most powerful men have gathered. Among them, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, the man who has ruled Iran with an iron fist for decades. He doesn't know what's coming. 2 hours and 5 minutes later, he's dead. To understand why jets are in the air over the Middle East, you have to go back, way back. Before 1979, Iran was a very different country. A monarchy, authoritarian, yes, but aligned with the West. The Shah sat on the throne. Washington kept him there. Then came the revolution. In 1979, the Shah was swept from power. A cleric named Ruhollah Khomeini filled the vacuum, and he had a very different vision for Iran, an Islamic republic, governed by religious law, and hostile, fundamentally and ideologically hostile to two nations above all others, the United States and Israel. Khomeini died in 1989, but his successor, Ali Khamenei, carried that torch and ran with it. For decades, Iran bankrolled militant groups across the Middle East, positioning itself as the great resistance against American and Israeli power. And then came the nuclear question. In 2002, the world learned a secret Iran had been keeping: uranium enrichment. 2 hidden facilities. The kind of program that doesn't exist unless you're building towards something. And that something terrified Western intelligence agencies. Was Iran building a bomb? Tehran said no, but no one fully believed them. The US and Israel launched a shadow war, cyber attacks that crippled centrifuges, assassinations of key scientists, sanctions that squeezed the Iranian economy like a vice. In 2015, a diplomatic breakthrough. The Obama administration brokered a nuclear deal. "This is a good day," Obama said. "Iran will not get its hands on a nuclear bomb." 3 years later, President Trump tore it apart. This was a horrible, one-sided deal. It should never, ever have been made. The clock started ticking again. By 2025, Iran was staggering. Israeli and American airstrikes had already hammered 3 of its nuclear sites, bunker buster bombs punching deep into the earth. The economy was in freefall. The currency collapsed. Food prices exploded. And in the streets of Tehran, something rare began to happen. People stopped being afraid. Millions poured into the streets, not just demonstrating, but demanding the end of the Islamic Republic itself. Trump, watching from Washington, publicly called for an uprising. "Help is on its way," he posted. The regime responded with brutality. The internet went dark. The world went quiet. When the smoke cleared, thousands dead, 50,000 arrested. Diplomatic backchannels buzzed. On February 26th, a last-ditch meeting in Geneva collapsed. Nothing was resolved. The clock ran out. Saturday, February 28th, 9:40 a.m., Tehran. The CIA had been tracking Khamenei for months. His movements, his patterns, his secure communications. And on this morning, their intelligence lit up. Khamenei, and a room full of Iran's top officials were gathered in a single compound near Haftatir Square. The US and Israel had planned to strike at night, but they moved the timeline. This opportunity was too good to waste. Israeli missiles hit the compound without warning. In half a minute, it was over. Ali Khamenei, supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, was dead. With him, the Chief of Staff of Iran's armed forces, the head of the National Defense Council, the Commander-in-Chief of the Revolutionary Guard, the Defense Minister, 30 senior officials in total, the entire upper tier of Iran's military and security apparatus, gone. The operation had a name. Israel called it Roaring Lion. The US called it Epic Fury. But this wasn't a single strike. It was a war. In the hours that followed, Israeli jets systematically dismantled Iran's air defense network. Then came the third wave. Roughly 200 fighter jets, much of Israel's entire air force, pushing deep into Iranian airspace with one mission: destroy as many Iranian ballistic missiles as possible before they could be launched. 30 minutes later, the United States joined in. Warships fired Tomahawk cruise missiles. Ground forces deployed rocket artillery. Multiple command centers went dark. Explosions rippled across Iranian cities, from north to south. Then, the news broke that stopped the world. An airstrike hit a girls' elementary school in Minab. Iranian officials reported at least 175 killed, most of them children. The images were devastating. The war had just gotten much, much darker. Iran called it Operation True Promise 4, and they meant it. Hundreds of missiles launched simultaneously, more than 200 aimed at Israel alone. Drones and ballistic missiles fanned out across the entire Middle East in what appeared to be a coordinated, pre-planned retaliation on a massive scale. The Houthis in Yemen re-entered the fight, ending a 3-month ceasefire in an instant. Dubai International Airport, direct hit. Terminal 3. Luxury hotels on the Palm set ablaze. UAE airspace closed. In Bahrain, Iranian drones struck near the US Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters. In Qatar, 66 ballistic missiles. In Saudi Arabia, missiles targeted the Prince Sultan airbase. In Jordan, 49 drones and missiles downed. In Kuwait, Iranian drones struck 2 passenger terminals. In Syria, civilians killed by falling debris. NATO put its missile defense systems on alert. Intelligence agencies warned of potential sleeper cell activations in Europe. In North America, in the span of hours, the entire Middle East had become a battlefield. Here's the question the world is now asking. Was this necessary? The US framed the operation as self-defense, eliminating imminent threats before they could materialize. But Iran's ballistic missiles, by US intelligence's own estimates, had a maximum range of around 3,000 kilometers. A serious threat to neighboring countries, not to the continental United States. Iran was reportedly still years away from a nuclear weapon. Critics argue this wasn't a war of necessity. It was a war of choice, one that exploited Iran's moment of maximum weakness. And under international law, preventive wars of choice sit on deeply contested legal ground. At home, Trump launched the operation without congressional approval, igniting a constitutional firestorm. Protests erupted, on American streets and across the world. Oil prices spiked. The Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 20% of the world's oil passes, trembled on the edge of closure. The death toll is still being counted. 3 American soldiers killed, 5 critically wounded. In Israel, 10 dead. Across the region, the numbers climb. In Iran, the Red Crescent reports at least 555 people killed since the strikes began. Iran's president survived. Ali Larijani vowed vengeance and promised the Islamic Republic would endure. A provisional government has formed. It is furious, and it is not done. In the streets of Tehran, some Iranians celebrate. Others grieve. The question of who comes next, who fills the vacuum left by the supreme leader, remains unanswered. For now, the missiles are still flying. The fires are still burning. And the world is holding its breath, waiting to see what comes next.